good gaming monitor on a budget certainly isn't an easy thing to come by, and worse yet, one that works well with the Xbox Series X is even more rare. Regardless, here are 5 of the best budget-level gaming monitors for the Series X. Oh, and all the links to the monitors will be linked in the comments and their description. This 32-inch monitor comes in at a very reasonable price of just $380, which is great for the actual quality you can expect. Of course, the particular model of this monitor does vary significantly because you can also opt for a slightly cheaper 1440p version, or a curved 4K option, or even a 43-inch 4K version, if that's what you'd prefer. But for now, I'm talking about the 32-inch flat-screen 4K edition. You won't be able to make use of the next-gen 102 FPS capabilities, unfortunately, since the refresh rate is capped at 60 Hz and there's no HDMI 2.1 port, which is what you need to be able to hit both 4K and 120 frames per second. Although, I would argue that it doesn't really matter since most games on Xbox won't have support for 120 FPS anyway. Even so, the 4K does look super crisp, especially given the large size of the monitor, so you can really notice the graphical difference in the games you play. Better yet, the color range is extensive and sufficiently vibrant, which I find to be essential for a lot of those beautiful story games. But also, those competitive games where having decent color contrast can make all the difference to your performance. The addition of HDR10 certainly helps too if you're looking for a more contrasting light and dark screen. On that topic of competitive gaming, this monitor does boast impressive competitive opportunities because of the snappy 3-millisecond response time, which is pretty unusual for a 4K monitor, I might add. I think with the super thin bezels and minimalist design that it also has a lot going for it in terms of the aesthetic, because it can just as easily blend into a productive workspace environment as well as it can be a gaming environment, which I imagine is a feature most people on a budget would be grateful for. LG has always produced quality products, whether that be headphones, TVs, or monitors, so in the case of this particular LG monitor, you just know you're getting exceptional quality. Aside from being a reliable brand, this 32-inch monitor has a heck of a lot of features that really gear it towards being a fantastic console gaming go-to. And for a price of just $322, like the Vizio, this screen is 32 inches, 4K, and mesmerizingly clean. Although a big difference is the VA panel that it sports. Now that can be both a bad and a good thing depending on how you look at it, because what it means is that while it won't get as bright as you might wish, it will really define the contrasting shades and colors to more of a degree than most other panels. Except maybe OLED panels. But hey, we're on a budget here. Furthermore, in low lighting, VA panels really shine, so as long as you keep your room dark when playing, brightness won't be much of an issue. And besides, for a VA panel, the viewing angles are actually surprisingly good. It is, however, capped at 60 Hz, so again, don't expect to be playing at 120 frames per second with this one. What it does have though is variable refresh rate and AMD FreeSync, which for console gaming isn't entirely necessary due to the frame rate being locked. But if you plan on playing with a PC with AMD hardware as well, then this feature is essential for smooth gameplay. A nice little feature nonetheless. When it comes to color, LG does not lag behind. You get fantastic HDR to separate the light from the dark and a hugely impressive color range. Should also note that the gaming mode does a lot to aid performance because it lowers input lag from its native 4ms to an even lower time, reduces latency, and essentially stabilizes darker areas of the screen so you can spot enemies hiding in the darkness. The physical aspect itself doesn't come across very gamer-like either, so it also makes a great productivity monitor as well. But if a gaming aesthetic is something you want, then maybe hold off until the last two. I'm going to get this out of the way first. Dell monitors are almost always productivity monitors, and this one isn't exactly an exception. It has super thin bezels and blends in any setup really nicely. Is that such a bad thing? I argue not. Regardless, this monitor is 27 inches, 4K, and 60 Hz, which makes it a decent contender in and of itself. But beyond that, it also has exceptional color accuracy, It's both vibrant and well contrasted, which makes for a superb image no matter what game you play. It does have fairly mediocre HDR, sadly, but it does support it nonetheless, and the difference it does or doesn't make is pretty minimal. Besides, the panel is actually very good without the top-tier HDR because it's both anti-reflective and works from literally any viewing angle, so it's great for bright room conditions. Despite being set up as mainly a productivity monitor, it does an excellent job at providing an array of gaming features. To name a few, variable refresh rate, both AMD FreeSync and NVIDIA G-Sync, and a low response time of just 4 ms. For just under $300, I think this monitor is a fantastic steal, and one that comes with really good picture quality. And now on to a much more gaming-themed monitor by none other than MSI. The MSI Optix is a 32-inch 4K screen that offers a fantastic experience for gamers because of its beautiful aesthetic and gorgeous, vibrant screen. Oh, and did I mention that it's curved too? Well, I know there's a debate as to whether or not that actually makes a difference or not, but hey, it certainly looks cool when in use, and I do think it adds a slight degree of immersion to the whole experience. I also think that even though it's definitely a gaming monitor, it does a good job at not going too over the top with the RGB lights and whatnot, so it keeps its versatility as a general use monitor too, though you can expect to find a neat RGB pattern on the back of the monitor, which is nice. Anyway, the panel type is VA, which, like mentioned earlier, is great for low light conditions, but not so much for lighter conditions, which is somewhat annoying. But hey, when the lighting is right, the screen looks remarkable. And with its HDR enabled, it really does look good when playing those long, pretty story games like Red Dead Redemption 2. But it's probably less geared towards competitive games than it may look because of its standard 60Hz refresh rate. But again, that's probably not too important if you're using it for the Series X, since not many games are willing to support a locked 120 FPS frame rate. When it comes down to its gaming mode though, it doesn't fail to live up to expectations because it offers an array of massively useful features like its night vision mode, which enhances the details of darker areas in game. That lets you spot enemies quite a bit easier. Then there's also the reduced 4 ms response time, as well as some other nitty-gritty stuff. The bottom line is that for $400, the MSI Optix will offer up a great gaming experience and super gorgeous visuals, and it'll do that while looking like an $800 monitor rather than a $400 one. I ought to note that there are a lot of different models of this which all look pretty similar, including an ultra-wide version, so remember, check the specific model if you plan on making a purchase. And now, for the absolute top dog when it comes to budget gaming monitors is the Acer Nitro VG280K. This Acer beast is just $300 and goes above and beyond its own price range. Naturally, it is 4K and 60Hz, like much of the others on this list, so its core, it's a very similar monitor, but it's perhaps the most impressive on the list given the fact that it's one of the cheapest budget monitors, yet still offers the most. Its color range is good and actually very accurate, which paired with the fantastic HDR makes the screen look so great. It's also really nice that they made the bezels basically non-existent so that the screen stretches right across the entire span of the frame. It looks sleek aesthetically, and I think it adds to the immersiveness a little too. However, where the real perks come in is when those smaller gaming features are taken into account. The Nitro has AMD FreeSync and a native 4 ms response time, which can be reduced to a snappy 1 ms with gaming mode enabled. What this means is that you get a massive advantage over other players in fast-paced competitive games, which rely on quick reaction times. The minuscule response time just gives the user a very slight edge over all other players, and it's essential in some scenarios. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to like the video. Hey, even subscribe if you're feeling generous.